How a cult took over Fiji. Let's go.
Fiji is a paradise in the South Pacific. Unfortunately, the country has been infiltrated by a doomsday cult, Grace Road. They rule their members with an iron fist, while entangling international authorities in a years-long game of cat and mouse. Unhindered, the cult built a vast business empire stretching across the island, warmly embraced by the local government. Their ambitions seem to be far from over.
반드시 정계에 들어갈 거야. 지배하고 다스리고 누리고 정복할 거야.
They expanded from 30-something businesses to 54 in the period following the raids.
Do we look like a cult?
There have been allegations of being fed improperly, being housed improperly, being overworked well beyond what normal labor practices would allow, and physical punishments to top everything off.
I realized my passport was gone. I was panicking a lot. I was screaming for help.
This story is about religious fanaticism.
Actually, their whole purpose is about preparing for great tribulation or the Armageddon, the end of days.
About a regime deeply entwined with them.
The church were able to ingratiate themselves with senior people in the government of the day.
About freedom of press.
Our latest investigation story or piece is with our lawyers.
That the permits given to your production company must be cancelled forthwith.
We're basically holding back the stories.
And about an entire country in the chokehold of a sect.
What happens if you effectively kill this golden goose?
How did Grace Road amass so much power? How far does its influence reach? And why has no one stepped in to stop them? Well, we went there ourselves to find out.
Wait, what?
All right, it's the first day here.
This investigation is, of course, a job for Valley. He previously traveled to Ethiopia for us, where a new ocean is forming. It doesn't take long to convince him to go.
So I was super happy when Fern asked me to go to the other side of the world to join a cult, I guess.
Now he's on a 48-hour trip from Vienna to Fiji.
This is the farthest away I've ever been from home. Literally the exact opposite side of the world.
Valley will spend nearly a week in Fiji, speaking with all kinds of people about Grace Road, or at least trying to.
Grace Road? Nothing much about them.
I've heard lots of rumors, but it was like none of my business.
All I know is that they say they are a Christian-based restaurant, but from what I've heard from rumors, they said they're working under cults or something like that.
I have had conversations with them. It's a confidential meeting, so I can't say more. From what I have heard, it is enough for me to know that this is not a church.
There are nagging questions that only Grace Road can answer. And
Hold on. Where is Fiji located in? North of New Zealand and northeast of Australia. Tuvalu, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, New Caledonia, Tonga, and New Zealand is below them. Ah, okay, so it's like far away from the Australia. It's not worth visiting, you know? Like, Australia is a massive island. I mean, at this point, it's not even considered an island. But visiting like small islands, I don't think so. For me, no.
To get an answer of them right now, as you now know, not very easy.
They haven't talked.
There's no route for the airplanes, and it's like impossible.
To us, they don't even know what we're doing, and yet they're trying to shut us down. If that's not a red flag, I don't know what is.
But let's go back to the beginning, before Valley's plane touched the ground at Nandi. It all starts here in Seoul, South Korea, between auto repair shops and an old factory
Wait, hold on. What's happening?
building, on a Sunday morning in 2008. The woman in the blazer up front is called Shin Ok-jo. She spent 3 years evangelizing China, preached in Philadelphia and in South Korea.
What?
She claims she was trained by the Presbyterian Church, back then one of the largest Christian denominations in South Korea. But the Presbyterian
Yeah, that's bullshit. That's f***ing bullshit, man.
Church insists Shin's story is false. Not that it matters much. By now, Shin has her own church, Grace Road. And she has some pretty specific ideas about humanity's future. Jesus, she says, will soon return to Earth a second time.
Okay, that's bullshit. Yeah. I mean, if you know if you know, you know. I'm not gonna say like whole thing because this is not a religious channel, but I'm just gonna say like that's just bullshit. Yeah, I mean, you guys already know that there's like tons of bullshit, fake ass religions and whatever.
But first, the world must endure a doomsday. In South Korea, cults have been flourishing for decades. In the early 2000s, an estimated 300,000 South Koreans were said to belong to 100 different groups. Today, more than 300 cults are active in the country. Some experts trace this back to the national trauma of colonialism and war. Back then, cults offered social contacts, comfort, and salvation. Today, they promise secret knowledge, a path to material and spiritual prosperity. Many of these cults are controversial. Some are outright dangerous. Over time, Shin wins over hundreds of followers with her rhetoric. In her mind, there is only one way to escape the coming doom. They must find the Promised Land, where she and her followers can survive global famine and nuclear fallout.
Their plan was to establish these large farms and to assist in helping feed the world during a time of hardship. That was the message that Okju Shin was promulgating from her pulpit.
Dan McGarry is an editor for the Pacific region with the OCCRP, the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. He's been investigating Grace Road for years. Around 2014, Shin's son, Daniel Kim, takes up the quest to find said Promised Land. He searches for a place with no winter and a steady warmth between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius. In his pursuit, he allegedly traveled to 60 countries, and eventually his search leads him to Fiji. An archipelago of 332 islands and over 500 islets. Scattered across an ocean expanse almost twice the size of the Gulf of Mexico, only 100 are inhabited. Fewer than 1 million people live here, most of them on the main island, Viti-Levu. That's also where the capital Suva is located. Until 1970, Fiji was part of the British Empire, so English became the official language, and because India was also under British rule, many Indians ended up in Fiji. Today, next to English, people here also speak Fijian Hindi and traditional Fijian Aituke.
Like you said, at the end of the day, only thing you hear is stories, but it's important for us to see it and believe it. We can't be depending on the stories we hear.
Back in 2014, Kim wrapped up his
Jesus
assessment
Christ.
of whether Fiji could be the Promised Land.
That's like a big story.
Now he's about to leave for his next destination, Nepal.
I don't get it. Why is it always Indians and like, I don't know.
But he gets stuck in Fiji and
Why
takes
is
it
it
as a sign
always?
from God. His quest, he believes, reached
Why
its
is it
conclusion.
always?
Soon after, Grace Road announces they have clear evidence. This is the land God has prepared. And so Prophet Kim's mother and hundreds of church members follow him there.
What?
Others believe no prolonged search mission or higher power was involved.
There used to be a direct flight from Seoul to Nandi. That's it. You know, it was a direct flight.
Reverend Bhagwan James is the General Secretary of the Pacific Conference of Churches, an organization to bring together different churches in the Pacific region. He is also a minister of Fiji's Methodist Church.
I can tell you that I have been aware of the Grace Road group for about 11 years now. I was first approached by Korean groups in Fiji, faith groups in Fiji that are doing missionary work, to raise their concerns about some of the new sects that were coming in.
It wasn't just Fijians who were wary of Grace.
What did I just hear?
Some of the new sects that were
Okay. I thought
coming in.
It wasn't just
I thought he meant another word.
Fijians who were wary of Grace Road. Back home in South Korea, the Presbyterian Church launched an investigation into Shin Okjo and gathered evidence of just how dangerous she was. To heal a schizophrenic man, she ordered her followers to tie him with duct tape. The man's blood circulation failed, and his leg later had to be amputated. In September 2014, the Presbyterian Church declared Shin a heretic. Deacon Lee Ing-yu was one of the ones leading the charge against her, a grave insult, one that would not go unanswered. A Sunday morning 3 months later, Mass is about to begin at the Daerim Methodist Church in Seoul. In front of the church, a few dozen Grace Road members are protesting. Suddenly, some of them storm inside. They violently attacked a church official, Deacon Lee Ing-yu. They grab him and drag him down the stairs. They probably consider him to be a demon. At least, that's what Shin reportedly told them. She was never persecuted for the attack, but afterwards, she was on the radar of both the South Korean media and police. All the more reason to finally settle in Fiji for good.
This is the place that is supposed to save a group of people from famine and nuclear fallout. A group of people that came from 8,000 kilometers away from here, from South Korea. I wonder also, all the people here in this bus and the people around, how aware are they of this sect and the stories around them? How troubled is this paradise? This paradise on Earth, really? It's like a 3-4 hour drive.
Oh, my bad. Oh, so it's like if I'm not hovering to this window, then I cannot see the subtitles. I'm just gonna turn it off then.
From Nadi to Suva, and all along this road are actually also Grace Road businesses, supermarkets, gas stations, restaurants, and so on.
One should ask the question is, why did they come in as a business first rather than as a church? Right? So they had obviously already a methodology, an approach to come in. So they'll come in as a business, they set up as a foreign investor, and then they move from there.
In April 2014, Grace Road established their presence in Fiji with this farm, 3.8 hectares of land, more than enough space to grow rice and vegetables. So far, so good. Given the whole incoming global famine thing, it probably makes sense to cultivate their own rice, feed the world during a time of hardship, and so on. But then something strange started to happen. The cult started to expand, rapidly. In 2015, they opened their restaurant, Grace Road Kitchen, followed by Noodle Story, Sunny Pizza, Awesome Grill, Fierce Chicken, Snowy House, and Patisserie Pacifica. Grace Road also launched their own construction company, designing and building for their own businesses, for private clients, and even for the government. As befits true Christians, after Cyclone Winston in 2016, they helped rebuild this village. A year later, they were busy refurbishing and extending Prime Minister Bainimarama's house, at a cost to Fijian taxpayers of allegedly around $3 million. In the same year, the group won a business award, presented by Bainimarama. By this point, more than 100 Fijian locals are working for Grace Road, but the majority of employees are Korean, at least 300, and they're far from done. Grace Road opens supermarkets, hardware stores, a dental clinic, shoe stores, and beauty salons. At the center of it all are Daniel Kim and his mother, Shinokjo, shaking hands, cutting ribbons, growing the empire. And for a long time, no one knew what's really going on behind the scenes at Grace Road.
We are actually driving to Nabu right now, which is the place where it all started. The headquarters of Grace Roads, Grace Farms. This is the road, the Grace Road.
During his travels, Vali is supported by Lonnie, a filmmaker from Fiji. Behind the scenes, Jim and Lada handle logistics and access, and Mary does the driving. Even before Vali arrived, they tried to get us in touch with Grace Road, sending emails and calling dozens of numbers.
So it was either not working, diverted, or it had that fax line sound where this high beeping sound when you call the number. 2 of them actually managed to get through. Spoke to a lovely gentleman on one of the numbers that I called, and he said, email the admin address. So I did. I'm still waiting for a response from them. I've tried that number again. Nobody's answered.
By now, it seems Lonnie's number got blocked.
As we're approaching Grace Road headquarters now, what's our plan?
So I'm just gonna go up to the front door and speak to them and explain to them what we're trying to do in person, and if we can really schedule the time to sit down with them to have a chat on camera.
Yeah.
Lonnie and Jim enter the building. After a while, they return.
Come on, why are you walking so slow? We want to know. What did they tell you?
We went up to the office.
They were nervous when we mentioned the fact that we were part of a documentary crew and we want to speak to somebody. You could sort of feel the shift in the vibe.
They didn't want to give some direct contact or some address or...
No.
I asked for a number. They said
no. They said no, just admin.
Vali can't film inside Grace Road's headquarters or speak with officials, but he can at least visit the cult's restaurants.
I love the food that they have, the menu that they prepare.
Their pizzas are good.
I mean, they have good taste, especially for the pizza. I love the pizza, so...
It's a great place to eat.
I like their food and coffee.
Okay, we're at Olive Tree, and I'm having some carbonara rice cakes. And I have to say, it's really, really good. We are at Patisserie Pacifica and Fierce Chicken, having a coffee. So the coffee is good, I can tell you that, and the rest I'll tell you a bit later.
So let's take a look. Great food, modern interior. No signs of an abusive doomsday cult. But wait. These signs read, the brightest, cleanest, kindest, and most honest eternal group that sees and delivers the eternal love of God.
Jesus Christ,
Interesting
man.
world map also. The center of the world, Fiji, the only island with yesterday and today. And look at these. The Booklet of Truth, by Reverend Okjo Shin. Vali takes one.
Justification of threshing. Reading about why Okjo Shin has to be released from prison. It feels like everyone knows about Grace Road. Everyone has a reaction whenever I mention the name. And I can't really tell what the reaction is like about their businesses, restaurants, shops. But whenever I ask a little bit more critical question, it feels that people tensen up. People don't want to comment. People don't know, or they've heard some rumors. But it really feels like they don't speak openly, or they can't speak openly, or they just want to focus on the positive aspects. And we have speculated that this might also be related to some kind of leftover fear of the previous government, which was essentially a dictatorship under Bainimarama.
In the Bainimarama era, things were quite different.
This is Fred Wesley, editor-in-chief of the newspaper Fiji Times. He was already in office when Grace Road set foot in Fiji. Back then, what looked like paradise was in fact a deeply oppressed country.
I say there's a lot of misunderstanding by the international community of what transpired here. And Australia and New Zealand, being big brothers, wanted to stamp their mark as big brothers. But why do you think they're doing it?
Because they don't like to see a military dictatorship in the region.
Frank Bainimarama came to power in a military coup. He was a former commodore of the Fijian Navy. He's a strong man. He is reputed to have inflicted great many acts of violence on individuals who were critical of the regime.
A lot of people don't want to understand the situation here. Is it because I'm a military man?
Yes, of course, you've seized power. Okay, no, with a military man in a nice shirt, but you're still a military man and you're still...
Well, I keep telling everyone, a radical change needs to be brought in. And radical change cannot be brought in by some weak organization.
Under Bainimarama, the opposition in parliament was, for all intents and purposes, muzzled. Freedoms of expression, peaceful assembly, and association were restricted. Violence was commonplace. The media was heavily censored and tightly controlled by the regime.
I had a senior journalist who was based in the West, who was arrested 5 times, thrown into a cell 3 times. I've had people who were journalists who were verbally abused by ministers, and an editor would get a $25,000 fine and be sentenced to jail for 2 years.
It wasn't only journalists that were suffering this kind of repression. The laws were changed, the constitution was changed, the arm of government was strengthened in terms of repressing negative or critical voices. It was a very, very strict regime for anybody who wasn't completely aligned with the Bainimarama agenda.
After seizing power in the 2006 coup, Bainimarama held on thanks to a system that mixed regular democratic elections with periods of repression. He survived 2 elections in 2014 and 2018, but in 2022, Fiji's economy is faltering. The pandemic battered tourism, and some sense a wind of change. Bainimarama lost his absolute majority, and a coalition of other parties took over parliament. Vali still senses the echo of these dark days of oppression, especially when he talks to people off camera. Much of it he puts down in his notes.
Jim and Lani often refer to the Bainimarama regime, 16 years of oppression. They tell the story of the relationship between Prime Minister Bainimarama and Grace Road. During his tenure, the Fiji Development Bank invested a significant amount of money in the group. On the other hand, he used Grace Road for his own purposes. From a Fijian perspective, the story of Grace Road is bigger than the cult itself. It's politically charged.
The OCCRP investigated these troubling ties between Bainimarama and Grace Road. A former government spokesman told them the cult was treated like a protected species. Laws restricting free speech also kept criticism of the cult largely muted. OCCRP revealed that Fijian police had spoken with witnesses who described beatings and other abuses by Grace Road members, but without any serious consequences for them.
And so I think the kind of strong-armed administration that we see in Grace Road would have resonated very much with Frank Bainimarama and Aya Sayed Kayum, the two main members of the Fijian government at the time.
Sorry guys, I had to.
It's Vali's fifth day in Fiji.
I had to what am I saying? I have to change the speed for 2x.
And it starts with a surprise. We've actually received an answer from Grace Road, but not the one we expected.
Okay.
I mean, this is getting too long, so I'm just gonna go for 1.5x.
Here's a serious update. Yesterday, Lani got a call from the Film Commission in Fiji.
Wait. Okay, wait. Are you in the office? Okay, I'll come across to you now.
Okay, Lani just got a phone call from Film Fiji, who gave us the permit to film, that the lawyers of Grace Road called Film Fiji to revoke our permit. And right now, Lani's in the office.
So the lawyers have contacted them about the fact that we've been going to different Grace Road restaurants and shops and stuff. They're emailing them now about revoking the permit.
Exciting.
The lawyers from Grace Road state that
our client is extremely concerned with the basis on which a permit was given to your production company. It is imperative that the permit given to your production company must be cancelled forthwith. However, we will leave that decision to Film Fiji. They also wrote that we need permission from Grace Road to film anything about them, and that they, quote, expressly declines your request to film or shoot any short film, documentary, or any other form of any motion picture on or about it. They're trying to shut us down. If that's not a red flag, I don't know what is.
Anyway, we get to keep our filming permit, but from Grace Road's perspective, it probably made sense to try to stop us from filming. After all, it would be a shame if more people learned about the horrendous crimes they allegedly committed. It's the summer of 2018, 4 years after Grace Road's arrival in Fiji. Their many businesses are thriving. Bainimarama's regime is still in power. Shin is on a 15-hour trip back to South Korea. When she and other church leaders arrive at Incheon International Airport in Seoul, the group is suddenly surrounded by police officers. Shin Okjo and 3 of her companions are arrested on the spot.
By that time, there were fairly well-developed allegations of significant physical violence. The church goes through this process they call the threshing floor, and that means, they say that people's sins are expiated through beatings.
Gruesome.
That kind of activity had been going on for quite some time. Korean authorities were aware of it. They had credible allegations. They felt they had sufficient evidence.
And these violent practices are said to have made their way to Fiji.
It appears
they're getting hurt, but tell each other, I'll go to the hospital.
We were not able to independently verify Marama's statements.
They'll be getting out. I heard
the workers. Much of this was allegedly also experienced in 2014 by then 21-year-old Siyun Lee. After undergoing cancer surgery, her mother joined Grace Road and wanted to travel to Fiji for recovery. Siyun interrupted her studies and accompanied her for 2 weeks. Shin's sermons were bizarre.
A lot of wailing, a lot of shouting. She would verbally abuse a lot of people, call them names, awful names.
When she tried to leave, she realized something was wrong.
Actually started packing the day before. And when I went to, pack my computer, my laptop, it was gone. I realized my passport was gone. I was panicking a lot. I was screaming for help.
Dressed only in pajamas and flip-flops, she made her escape. Although others tried to block her path, she managed to break free and ran straight towards a police car. They helped her obtain an emergency passport at the South Korean embassy. All the while, Grace Road members pursued her, and even her own mother tried to convince her to stay. But she left her mother behind in Fiji and managed to return to South Korea. Grace Road seems to rule over its members with an iron fist. The cult runs an enormous business empire that has excellent ties to the country's dictator. So they may have wondered, why not bring the promised land under its control entirely?
반드시 정계에 들어갈 겁니다. 정으로 돼 있어도 그들은 이게 안 저가니까 안 돌아가니까. 그러면서 어떻게 하고 우리가 지배하고 다스리고 누리고 정복할 거야.
While Shin settles into her prison cell, South Korean authorities are continuing their crackdown on Grace Road. Shortly after capturing Shin in Seoul, they plan to strike again.
Man?
17 officers are sent on a secret mission to Fiji. On the ground, they meet with the local police, and in the middle of the night, a joint operation begins.
They arrived at the main multi-acre farm. That's the headquarters
I think
of the church. Late at night, did a sort of a sweep to gather up people and evidence before anybody had a chance to react.
In the following days, 6 South Korean citizens get arrested, including Shin's son, Daniel Kim. The secret mission is looking like a huge success. But then...
Well, nobody really knows exactly what happened. What we do know is that the courts intervened quite quickly. Shortly after that intervention, the Fijian police were saying, okay, look, we're going to take over this investigation. And so the Korean police detachment, who thought that they were going to come back with, a number of people in their custody, ended up going back empty-handed. An Interpol red notice was issued at around that time for Daniel Kim and presumably for others.
But in Fiji, it seems like no one cares. Perhaps investigations continue behind the scenes, but for years, nothing comes of them. So Daniel Kim gets to carry on with business as usual. Grace Road launches new ventures and keeps on growing.
They expanded from 30-something businesses to 54 in the period following the raids. Grace Road became one of the largest private employers in Fiji at the time.
And they keep diversifying. From dental clinics to gas stations, The stations are reportedly run in partnership with ExxonMobil. They are still operating today. We asked ExxonMobil whether they were aware of the events surrounding Grace Road, and why, instead of ending the cooperation, they chose to expand it. They did not respond. In July 2019, Shin Uk-jo was convicted in South Korea. She was sentenced to 6 years in prison for fraud, holding her followers captive in Fiji and subjecting them to violence.
Daniel Kim became the effective leader of the church. He's got, the money of his contributors, of his church members. He's also got access to a great deal of leverage in terms of development loans and various other things.
But not everyone in Fiji stays silent about Grace Road. At the end of 2019, opposition leader Sitiveni Rabuka demands an immediate investigation. Now that Korean courts have convicted the founder of Grace Road for offenses committed in Fiji, our authorities cannot turn a blind eye to the allegation of forced labor, torture, assault, and illegal detention, and they must act swiftly to protect the human rights of the members of Grace Road and prosecute those who have broken our laws. Despite all the allegations and calls for investigation, Bainimarama reportedly continues to let the cult operate undisturbed for years. But by 2022, his grip on power is slipping. After 16 years of oppressive rule, Bainimarama is finally voted out. Sitiveni Rabuka becomes prime minister. All signs point to trouble for Grace Road. 2023, September 7th. The newly elected Fijian government is cracking down on the cult. 6 members of the cult are declared prohibited immigrants after the South Korean government nullified their passports. 2 members get deported. 2 more are released after a court injunction. The last 2, including Daniel Kim, are said to be on the run.
The run?
But then this appears on Facebook.
The run? This is a time where we play the Minecraft. We go for the Minecraft speedrun, man.
Everyone we know who knows about. Do we look like a pert? If the pert, why do so many of the customers supporting us? So I want to deliver this message to the people that this is not a legal fee. This is illegally, and we are not happy about it.
This is illegal. What the fuck, man?
How can you do that?
But it's no use. Daniel Kim is put on immigration custody. For years, Grace Road stayed silent in the face of criticism, but now they launch a massive solidarity campaign. The cult is facing existential risks. Its leader was convicted in South Korea. Her son, the new head, is detained, and the new government has launched extensive investigations. For now, their business keeps running, from agriculture and construction to restaurants, supermarkets, and gas stations. The question is, how long will it last? A concern that, it seems, has begun to trouble the Fijian government as well. Grace Road claims in a statement that it creates jobs for rural development and employs over
COVID repercussions
waiting for. Daniel Kim and another Grace Road official step out. He is free.
This was prospered.
But no one from Grace Road has ever been prosecuted or convicted. A clear shift has taken place within the Fijian government. Grace Road is now reconsidering new investments in Fiji. They stress that they have always treated Grace Road with friendliness, and they say they respect them for their new retail standards they brought to Fiji.
Currently,
I think they kind of ruined the production because it says how a cult took over Fiji, but it's 37 minutes, but it's you have to show the highlights at the beginning, but it's this one is going back and forth, and it kind of reminds me of a vlog, recording yourself or something, just something it's not that much documentary today, but
one of the substantial private sector drivers in the Fijian economy at this time.
Now, on the ground, Vali wants to ask government representatives about these concerns, and we want to know why the investigations
I don't get it why they're going back and
forth.
According
to the OCCRP, Fijian officers have spoken to key witnesses of beatings and other abuses more than 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's just going back and forth. What are you doing, man?
What's taking so long?
Of putting both. UK thought they could conquer it, but couldn't, and instead had to integrate. She has a similar hope with Grace Road, that outsiders coming to Fiji with
seem to be afraid of something. Whenever any of my questions as guests, something has
to protect the children of God from the plagues.
To us, this does not sound like remorse. To us, this sounds like a justification for brutal violence. Meanwhile, Grace Road seems to be looking to expand their empire beyond Fiji.
The president of Nauru, which is a tiny island nation of about 20,000 people, has extended an invitation to Daniel Kim, asking him to come and work his economic magic on his tiny island to see, what he can do to help the economy of Nauru.
Nauru's climate is warm, with no winter. Fertile soil is limited, though. But who is to say if any of this is really in preparation for some imaginary apocalypse?
Alright, that was a good video. I mean, it was kind of too long, going back and forth. I didn't even understand what they're trying to talk about. Just give me the freaking result, man. Like, just going back and forth. Like, Fern wasn't like this before. They just ruined it. I mean, GG. Like, this one is like, if I remember correctly, then this island is, how do you call it? Sea level? Water level? Is like rising, so this island is like, I don't think they can do that on here because the island itself is just sinking down right now, man. Like, it's just, I think it's been a couple of years since they started sinking down, but I'm not sure about that, man. But I mean, it is what it is, if I remember correctly.